you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Moore
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. I am Jimmy Murphy. He is Pierre McGuire. I am at the TD Garden getting ready for the Bruins and the Dallas Stars, Pierre. And of course, you are back in the home office right now. How are you today?
I'm very well. I'm getting ready to watch a whole slate of games. Don't need a frozen frenzy to watch a lot of games.
No.
So I'll watch a little of your game. I'll watch a lot of Florida New York Rangers, which I think is going to be
Clash of the Titans.
Interesting game, important game to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that I'm going to watch is New Jersey versus Detroit, because Jersey's getting Luke Hughes back and Brett Pesce back. And after giving up 8 goals the other night to Tampa, they might need them back.
Yes. I have a feeling
there's a lot going on.
I think that's going to be a big response game from the Devils for sure. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Pierre, earlier in the week, on Monday, I believe it was, we discussed what happened in the Bruins-Utah game last week when Brad Marchand made a egregious turnover, and he has since admitted that's what it was. And, got a little tongue lashing from his head coach, Jim Montgomery, and also a little nudge. And a lot of people around the league, especially our colleagues, really seem to make a big deal about this. We're kind of appalled.
Can I just stop you there?
Yeah.
That game happened on what day?
On Saturday.
What day is today?
Thursday.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And so, I think, some Elliot Friedman actually called the incident jarring, which I found a little bit overreacting. But this was your take, Pierre, on Monday on the Marchand Montgomery incident. Let's hear it.
If anybody's got a problem with that, then they should be in the league.
Yeah, that's
this
right.
This league is not about milk and cookies. This is a tough guys league.
Yep.
I had such a delightful afternoon, Jimmy. I interviewed the great female head coach of Brown University women's hockey team, Melanie Ruzzi.
Mm-hmm.
I hope everybody hears it. It'll play on the ECAC webpage. She's phenomenal. She wasn't a little bit good. She was really good. And one of the reasons why she's good, she has emotion. She has passion. She wants her team to play harder. She wants her team to be hard to play against. She doesn't hold back. It is go listen to that young lady speak. That's the kind of person you want to coach. And she speaks very much like Jim Montgomery speaks. And she's not coaching kids that are making money. He's coaching guys that are professional athletes. I'm sorry. I understand that everybody wants it to be really neat and proper and polite. That's not how it works in a professional sporting environment. Sure, when it's going great, everything's awesome. Sometimes things don't always go great. And when they don't go great, you got to figure out a way to make them better.
Yep.
Not always, but sometimes you got to be firm.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. People don't like that anymore. I totally get it. Unfortunately, that's never going to change in pro sports.
All righty. So fast forward to today, Mr. Pierre McGuire, and this is Brad Marchand after the game day skate. Now, I got to let the Boston media, my colleagues here, off the hook. They're getting a little flack for this, that, this question hadn't been asked until now because the game was Saturday. This was actually the first media availability that they've had since the Bruins returned from the road. So that is the reason for that. All right, so let's go to Brad Marchand today, talking to me and my good friend Joe Haggerty.
You know what I'm talking about?
No. That scared me.
No, the call got reversed. I remember you got a turnover at the blue line.
Yeah.
Went down and turned to a goal. Call got reversed, so it was no goal. But the Nesson cameras caught on the bench Monty yelling at you and kind of gave you a nudge on the shoulder. And people were making a big deal out of it.
Yeah, I mean, people are very very sensitive these days, and there's a lot of it's unfortunate how coaches are scrutinized over things like that. There's a lack of accountability nowadays because people can't handle the heat, and you make a mistake like that, you deserve to hear about it. I'm glad that he said something about it. If he didn't, we would have a much bigger issue. So that fact that that's something that we're talking about is it's disappointing, but that's the way things are today.
And you think it makes sense? It makes sense that he's giving it to you as the captain to show the other guys that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's an accountability that needs to be held in this room, and nobody's all from that. You know, I made a really bad mistake and you know, a bad time of the game, and that's you know, something that's not acceptable, and you know, I shouldn't have done to begin with. But the fact that you know, I expected to hear about it not only from him but a bunch of guys on the bench too. So you know, I should be held accountable in that situation, and I'm glad that he did.
That turnover a product of kind of pressing to create some.
No, it was the opposite. I was actually feeling really good that game. You know, and I was feeling good up to that point, and just trying to do a little bit too much. Sometimes you get a little overconfident. You know, and I tried to make a play that I shouldn't have, because I was, you know, feeling good. So, you know, that just shows that, you know, to be successful in this game, there's times where you just got to keep it simple and play the right way and get away from that.
Does he seem scarred to you? Does he seem rattled or upset or, you know, hurt by his coach? I don't think so.
No, he learned from the very best. He learned from Mark Recchi. He learned from Zdeno Chara. He learned from Patrice Bergeron. He learned from David Krejci. He learned that if you start taking stuff personal in professional sports, but in particular hockey, where everything is in a confined area, you're with people for a long period of time, starting usually at the end of August and hopefully going into the middle part of June. It's a lot different than real life. It's a lot different than real life. And people, I think, in real life try to equate professional sports to how they live their lives. And you can't. They're two totally different entities. You know, I'm a father and a husband. But when I go to work in hockey, I'm not the father and husband.
Yeah.
You know, I was away from my house for almost 25 years. I got a 24-year-old daughter and a 22-year-old son. And my wife is a superhero. So when I came home to them, I didn't bring my hockey home to them.
No.
And, you know, it's different. And I'm proud of Brad for the way he just handled that. And I'm sure Donnie Sweeney is. I'm sure Cam Neal. Listen, those guys played for Brian Sutter. You know, like Brian Sutter, and he's a friend and somebody I really respect. He's a tough guy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and you can go down the line. I mean, there have been a lot of tough coaches. Late Pat Burns was a tough guy. I worked with a really tough guy, Scotty Bowman. Mike Keenan was a really tough guy. And go down the line. This has been going on for a long time. Doesn't mean that everybody has to agree with it. But hockey players grow up with this.
Yep. And look, I mean, it's not like Jim Montgomery went out there and personally attacked him in the media or anything. This is just the heat of the moment on the bench. And, you know, I don't know. I'm glad he said that. Hopefully it didn't seem to, because I'll tell you, I was listening to the radio driving down to the Garden today from New Hampshire, and, you know, they're still trying to make a big deal about it, even though Marchand kind of cleared the air there. But, you know, hopefully if fans can move on, know there's nothing wrong. And that's part of the game. That's part of the game.
I like what you just said. Hopefully the fans can move on, because Jimmy's an excellent coach. Brad's an excellent player, and he's evolving into being a very good captain.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the one thing I'd say is I have no fight with the media. You know, Jimmy, I've told you this for a long time, and I've told it to you. Don't take stuff personal. Don't, you know, I've had a lot of bad stuff written about me. I've had a lot of nice stuff written about me. So I'm grateful for whatever. But I would tell you this. There are a lot of people in the media right now that are looking to score points.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they're trying to score points is through clicks.
Yep.
And that's not how to cover the game.
No, it's not. Speaking of, Pierre, different situation. Yep. No, I agree. And speaking of, it has nothing to do with a coach player getting into it on a bench or anything. And look, I get the trade rumors in the NHL, probably in terms of clicks. That's the biggest thing you can write about or talk about. And I get it. Fans are interested. I am too. We all get thrilled talking about, you know, what are the latest rumors and stuff. I understand it. But making something out of nothing kind of drives me nuts sometimes. And when people are reporting about Kent Hughes saying that, you know, he's making calls and looking into potential trade partners and all this, but nothing's close. He's just gouging the market. I don't get it, Pierre. Like, honestly, I get, and I know the Canadians, you know, are such a huge market, and you could probably get a lot of clicks if you talked about what kind of milk they had with their cereal. I know, I get that. But at the same time, like, this is not news. every GM is doing that right now. I mean, I just interviewed Don Waddell, and I told you guys yesterday, he said the exact same thing. Yeah, we're just making calls, see what's out there, but we're not even close to that mark where we might consider a trade. Pierre, why is this story blowing up all of a sudden today?
It's because it's Montreal. It's
Yeah.
because they got blown out by the Rangers. It's because their young superstar was dashed for, Lane Hudson. It's because they've got some injury situations now, on the back end in particular. So it's a convenient story because it all blends, and it's obviously a big market team, and it's a huge brand team. So I understand that. The true story in the league, if you really want to go down that road, and we brought it up yesterday, is what is going to happen in Utah when you've got two major defensemen in Dursey and Marino out for a minimum of 4 months, and probably in Dursey's case the rest of the year. The real story that should be being pushed is what do they do going forward? Because remember one other thing. They made a significant trade with Tampa in the summer. They brought in Sergachev, but part of getting Sergachev, you had to give up J.J. Moser.
Yep.
And Jimmy, you and I are part of the J.J. Moser fan club.
Yes.
Before it was fashionable, we spoke about him on the eye test many times last year. Now he's a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So they're not overly deep on defense. And they're really lucky that young Kesselring has had a tremendous start to the year. He's had an awesome start to the year, that kid. But that's the story right now. Like, they're a relevant team in terms of being a potential playoff team. People should be focused on them.
I know.
But they're not right now because
it's Utah.
It's Utah.
Yeah.
And really, it just became Utah.
Yep.
It's Arizona where players used to go to die.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that. Yeah, and you know what? We'll get back to that in a bit because, well, as you were talking about that too, I had a thought about the owner and what he said in leading into this season, and just supports what you're saying, that we should really be focused on that team right now. But we're going to focus on a team out east, a little northeast of us right now, and actually northwest. That is the Buffalo Sabres, and our good friend Marty Biron, who played goalie for the Buffalo Sabres and has done a great job being an analyst for them up there, and of course on national networks as well, and has a heck of a sweatshirt there. Look at that. Quebec Nordiques.
That's northeast of you, and northwest is Buffalo, but northeast is my old Nordiques that I used to love so much as a kid.
He was the kid that used to come and throw hot dog wrappers at me when Hartford would come in there, or Pittsburgh would come in there.
I loved Hartford, Pierre, because so my dad worked for a construction company, and the company that he worked for had some season tickets, but he could never get the Boston, the Montreal, the Flyers, right? But somehow we always got the Hartford Whalers. And I would go down at the glass level in warm-ups, and I would watch Mike Liut. And I love Mike Liut, the big, tall number one, right? And the green unis and the Adams division back there. So I watched the Hartford Whalers a ton because of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a cool story. Jimmy, I don't know if you were ever in the Coliseum, but what Marty's talking about, it was a little like the Forum, but right behind the bench, you could sit there. And the bench was right up against the wall. It was really tight. Yep. And the visiting locker room man was a guy by the name of Brian Shaw, and he was the nicest man. And he'd always overload your dressing room with hot dogs.
They were not like Montreal. They were different than Montreal.
No, but the smell would come right down the corridor.
Oh, yeah.
It was so tight in the old Coliseum. It was funny. It was really
I got there. The only time I was there, guys, was in the 2008 World Championship. So the Nordiques were long gone, but still, you could feel the mystique of the place in there. Marty, before we get going, a friend of mine, she's a huge Sabres fan. Her name's Jill Thompson, at Sabres Bunny on Twitter. She sent me this clip, and she wanted me to ask you if you remember this save. So let's play this. And a great call by RJ on this. I love it. Let's play this clip.
Biron way out of the net and got trapped out there as he bumps in the corner. Here it is in front of the net. Oh, Biron! What an incredible save! He robbed him! Call a cop! He robbed Elmore blind! Call a cop! I don't believe it!
Even as we watch it again on replay, unbelievable. That was something.
You remember that, Marty?
Yeah, I do remember. And, funny things is you remember the games and remember these moments. And, Yeah, we were up 1-0 in the game. I went to the corner, decided to play the puck in the corner. John Leclerc was there. What was I thinking? I wasn't going to win that one-on-one battle.
Right.
The puck went back to the slot, and right-handed defenseman Andy Delmore was coming down the pipe, and all he saw was a yawning 4x6. He had 0 career goals at that point. This would have been his first NHL goal, and I dove with my stick out, made the save. The puck went up in the air. Michael Pekka is in front of the net like, oh my gosh, where's the puck? So he's thinking he's got to play. We lost that game 2-1 in overtime. I gave up a bad goal in the third period to Dan McGillis, I believe it was. He shot it 5-0 from the slot. Yeah, I think he shot it 5-0 from the slot. And I was like, oh, man. And then we lost in OT. But, yeah, and Jim Lawrence, who's the analyst with RJ, and they were great for so many years.
Gosh.
And Lorenzo is – I looked up to him and his analyst, like during the game as what he was saying, but he's like, as we watch it again, I still don't know how he made the save. And I'm like, well, good. I stumped Jim Lawrence as well.
I used to go into Buffalo when I was coaching, and Jimmy Lawrence would come down and talk to you about anything but hockey. He'd talk to you about fishing. He'd talk about fly fishing. He'd talk about all these different things, outdoor things. He'd ask you about your family. Never talked to you about hockey. He was the nicest guy. He was awesome.
That's awesome.
They called him Batman. You remember why they called him Batman here in Buffalo? So
because of the game,
he hit the bat. Yeah, he hit the bat that was flying around the odd, and they were kind of ducking it, and then he hit it with his stick, picked it up, and then just threw it out in the garbage. So they called him Batman.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Marty, let's get into this current Buffalo Sabres team.
Yes.
Good for them. They bounced back with 2 wins in their last year. That one over Dallas was a really nice one, but not the best start. And considering everything that's, gone on for so long and the hope and the excitement coming into the season, what did you make of that start? And I guess what have you made of how they've started to rebound a bit from it?
So, I mean, they started in Prague and they had been there for 2 weeks. And I've been to Europe at the start of the season. And the first week I felt great. And the second week I felt sluggish, right? And I think that affected the Sabres. The Devils got there just the second week. They went, practiced for a couple of days, played the 2 games and were out. So I feel like the Devils were way better than the Sabres in those 2 games. The Sabres were a little sleepy. So you put that in the garbage, you come home. They played a really good game, their home opener against the Kings. They got goalied by Darcy Kemper, and Kopitar had a hat trick in the third period. So you put that, but then they beat Florida. They beat Dallas. They beat Chicago. They should have beaten the Pittsburgh Penguins, but let Crosby score an OT, and they gave up a goal in the last minute. So the one stinker they played really was in Columbus, and that was not like Lindy Ruff was close to calling out people after that game. And I could go back to my time with Lindy thinking, oh, he used to call me out, or he used to call out Miro Shatan, or he used to call out, Alexei Zitnik, or he used to call out guys.
Maxim
Afinogenov. Yeah. Called out Afinogenov. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm like, Lindy was close to calling out players, but he knows it was only like 5 games into the season. Let's get back to work. I think they've had a good start to the season. Is the record as good as I think they've played? No, but Thompson scoring way more than he did even 2 years ago when he scored 47. He started 1 goal in 7 that year. Now he's got 5. There's a lot of great things happening. They just got to put it together now for a month, not just a week, but for a month.
Hey, Marty, how surprised is everybody there with Ryan McLeod? I know his game really well. Third-line player in Edmonton. He had 12 goals last year. He's already got 4 in 4 games in Buffalo. It's been unbelievable. Were they expecting that kind of offense from Ryan?
No, they were expecting the speed, and really he's on a checking line, if you want to call it a checking line, with Jordan Greenway and Jason Zucker. So you're looking at experience, guys that you can throw out there if you're on the road against any top lines, and they're going to have some speed. Now the offense for Jordan Greenway's gotten tons of offense. Now McLeod and Zucker's been part of it. That's surprising. So much so that, we do our show Sabres Live every day, Brian Duff and I, and now people are starting to say, hey, shouldn't Ryan McLeod move to the second line? Because Dylan Cousins is having a slow start to the season, and maybe that would get Jack Quinn going a little bit. So there's people that are saying, hey, McLeod has played so well that he could move up to the second line. I'm not there yet. But McLeod is definitely fast. Again, the NHL Edge numbers this year tell you that he's in the top 1% in speed burst, the top 3% in top speed in the NHL. So he's definitely showing off his speed.
Marty, just going back to Lindy Ruff again, when they brought him in, what were you thinking? Like, okay, why Ruff now? What is he going to bring to this club that they really need? What was the biggest thing you thought that he could, bring out of these players?
Well, accountability and discipline, that was always the number one thing. And accountability and discipline now is different than it was 20 years ago. So I get that. But I look at his time with the Devils, even as an assistant with the Rangers, I think he built a new bridge between coaches and players of this generation. So I thought he was going to be good with that. The problem is, I feel, especially in New Jersey, if he had goaltending, it was great. If he didn't have goaltending, it wasn't great. The system and the way that he likes to play is very fast, very quick, very up-tempo, rush chances, but you need saves. And like that Pittsburgh and that Columbus game, they didn't get saves, but they still scored 9 goals in those 2 games. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, you score 9 goals and you give up 12, right? That's the problem. Well, the last 2 games, Luukkonen's been good and getting them saves. It makes a big difference. So I think my view of Lindy is it was going to work as long as you get saves. And right now, like, it's been 50-50. So that's probably why the record is where it is.
Who's the starter, Marty? Is it Luukkonen long-term or is it Levi?
Well, right now it's Luukkonen, the back and forth, routine, like Levi Luukkonen has stopped, and they've got a little bit more of a break between games. So they've been going Luukkonen for now 2 consecutive games. Which he's gotten results, which is great. But I think it's going to be a battle all year long. Really, to be honest with you, Pierre, in training camp and in the first 4 games of the season, Levi looked better than Luukkonen. But after Luukkonen gave up 6 to Pittsburgh, the door was open for Levi to walk right in it, and he gave up 6 to Columbus the next day. So then the door closed, and then Luukkonen's door opened again. I think it's going to be like that all year. But Luukkonen did it for the second half of last season, and he was one of the top goaltenders in the second half. So I think he's got a little bit more experience in that way.
You look at Alf Dahlin's game right now. There's another one from Jill. She wanted me to ask, how do you think Ruff has affected him right now? Like
Rasmus, not Ulf.
Yeah. Time warp. My brain's going, man.
Yes.
All right. Anyhow, yes. Like, you look at them right now. He's not putting up the points he usually does, but he's better defensively. Do you think there's been an emphasis there on that, and that's kind of taken away from the points?
No, I think the slow down, points maybe is he just wasn't 100% in camp. The first day of training camp, he stepped on the ice, was on the ice 5 minutes, he left. And what Lindy Ruff described as a mid-body, he only played 1 preseason game. That was when they played Red Bull Munich in Germany. And he wasn't really looking himself in the first 5-6 games of the year. Lindy Ruff this week said, look, Dahlin is almost 100%, at least to his eyes. And when he rewatches the tape, and we're seeing that. The power play hasn't produced anything. They're 0 for whatever on the power play. They're the only team that haven't scored a power play goal this year. And again, Lindy and his sarcastic remarks after the game against Dallas, he said, guys, I promise you we'll get a power play goal before the end of the year. And he chuckled, which tells me he's not worried about the power play, and he's not worried about Dahlin. Dahlin's going to get his power play points, right, and then the 5-on-5 points are going to come. But he was not 100%, and now I think he's getting better and better every day.
And you're a beloved figure in the Buffalo area because you chose when your career was over to go back and stay there and live there. And I really respect you for that because I know how well that community treated you. Are the players getting the respect now from the fans? Because it's one of the only teams in the league, Marty, and you know this better than anybody, where the fans actually buy their tickets. There are not a lot of corporate tickets there.
Yeah, no, the players are getting the respect because the players have been much more involved in all aspects that the blue-collar town like Buffalo respects, right? The community, they live here. Like Rasmus Dahlin just started the Rasmus Dahlin Foundation, him and his longtime partner. They've been, in the community helping and giving back to children. Alex Stuck has now built a house here, and he makes Buffalo his home. Like, he lives 2 hours down the street, his parents anyway, in Syracuse, but Buffalo. And we've seen the players more and more involved with the community. So that's the number one thing. Yeah, they want to see a winning team because if you win, people buy tickets, they watch the games, they support it. but they respect the players because of their involvement in the community. I think that's the number one thing. It always has been. Rob Ray is a god. Rob Ray is going to be in the Sabres Hall of Fame. The next inductee in the Sabres Hall of Fame is Rob Ray. We announced it last week, right? Rob Ray scored 40 goals in his career. He's got thousands and thousands of penalty minutes, but he was out in the community and stayed here, and people love him. That's what makes the fans respect the players and the coaches, and we got that here in Buffalo.
Jimmy, before you go one step, I just want to bring this up to Marty, because I don't know if he played in the game or not, but I coached in the game. Denny Vial fought Rob Ray in the old odd in Buffalo. And you should go YouTube this fight. Marty knows. It started in one zone, went to the neutral zone, went to the other zone, came back in the neutral zone, and ended up in the far zone. So it touched all three zones twice, and both guys were basically naked.
Yeah. And that was Rob Ray's MO. Like he thought he was getting – Rob Ray was not the tallest guy, and then he was fighting all these big dudes like the Denny Vial and the Tony Twist and Chris Simon, and he's like, I got to get an edge. So his jersey would come off, right? And he was basically like bare-chested everywhere, and then the league made a rule, the Rob Ray rule, that you had to have your tie down. So then Rob Ray tied down the front of his jersey as well, because a guy like Ty Domi used to grab the front and lift it over the front of your face. So Razor had the front tied down and the back tied down to get an advantage. But that fight with Vial was amazing. There was, well, the Ty Domi, you can go and look at all those fights. They were unreal. And the fun fact is that Rob Ray and Ty Domi got in a fight in a hotel before their draft, because they had been like, they had the same agent. They got in a fight in a hotel before the night before their draft. And, you know, like, it's just that, and they're good buddies now, and they laugh about it. But yeah, that's
great.
So I know both guys really well. I could just see that happen.
Yeah.
Poor furniture. The furniture in that hotel room did not survive.
Marty, speaking of, is a fight maybe what Dylan Cousins needs to get going right now? Like, what do they need to do to spark his game?
Well, you know what? He's working hard. That's the number one thing. So I don't know if it's a fight. Like a goal would be great. And against Dallas pulled their goalie with 6 minutes at 3-0.
Yeah.
Dylan Cousins had a chance to put it in the empty net. He hit the outside in the net, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like that's what you needed, right? That's usually how it starts it up again,
right.
Or maybe it goes off your face and into the net. I think Jack Quinn has had a little bit of a slower start, and then Zach Benson was supposed to be on their line. Benson has been bugged with a little injury that now kept him out of last game. So they have Yuri Kulik there, and Kulik is good. I mean, he's the one that stands out in the line, so I think they'll figure it out. But the pressure is mounting on Dylan Cousins for sure, because 2 years ago, career year, last year, slowed down. This year, tough start. But, I mean, it's part of hockey. So I don't know if it's a fight, but I think he'd like to take one off the face and in the goal for a first goal of the year. And maybe you get a black eye, but not from getting punched in the face.
Is J.J. Peterka a 30-goal scorer?
Absolutely. He was 28 goals last year.
Awesome.
And I think if he stays healthy for the rest of the year, we know he missed with the concussion after getting hit by Brendan Dillon in Prague, but he's fantastic. And now it makes me think, if 2 years ago we had Cousins with Peterka and Quinn, was Peterka the line driver, right? Because we all thought it was Dylan Cousins, but then last year you don't have Quinn. Peterka plays with Thompson and Tuck for part of the year, and Cousins is kind of like on his own island, and this year Peterka is with Thompson and Tuck again. So I'm wondering if Peterka has more, in terms of line driving skills, because of how well he made Cousins play 2 years ago and how well he's playing with Thompson and Tuck now.
Yeah, it's not easy, Jimmy, for a winger to drive a line. It's pretty hard for a winger to drive a line. So I agree with what Marty said. That's why I asked the question. He was phenomenal last year, and people forget. I'm glad Marty brought it up, and I think that's part of why Quinn's off to it. So start. He missed most of last year, and I don't know if that's affecting him. But I'm looking at the Montreal Canadiens, and you look at some of their guys, that especially guys that miss time, and Kirby Dach's one of them. They're not the same. Yeah. And I think Quinn's kind of like that, Marty. You're closer to it. I watch all the games, but he doesn't look like he's ready to go yet.
Well, the thing with Jack Quinn, he's got a deadly shot. Like, he can beat NHL goaltenders, but he's got to get to the middle of the ice. And if he can't get to the middle of the ice, or if it's not open, it becomes a lot harder. He doesn't beat goalies from the wing. You know, the old time wingers that come down the wing, the Brett Hall type, like they come down the wing and score. Quinn has to get to the middle, even though he's a winger, but carrying the puck, toe dragging to the middle, it's not happened that many times now. So that's the problem. But you're right. Like, Kirby Dach in Montreal has had a rough go now, and they're, trying to get him going by playing with Caulfield and Suzuki. That's why I feel like bad for a guy like David Reinbacher, who's going to miss, the year, right? He got hurt in training camp. That's going to slow down his development. Like, playing when you're a young kid is so important. Now, if you're a 10, 12-year vet and you miss a year, okay, you'll come back because you're in the rhythm. You're in the wheel of things. But when you're a first or second year guy, it's a lot harder.
Yeah. Just want to let you, I noticed in the comment section, a lot of our viewers commenting about not being able to watch us on YouTube right now. We're trying to fix it, but it looks like it's a YouTube issue. So it's down for some people right now. It's everywhere. So we apologize for that. Marty, before I let you go, you're part of the goalie fraternity. So I got to ask you, this year right now, is there a certain goalie, young goalie maybe, that's starting to rise that you've been keeping an eye on?
Well, look, there's only one, and he's number one in the league in goal save above expectation right now. And he plays in Anaheim, and it's Lukas Dostal. I mean, yes. I think, look, we've talked a lot about John Gibson. It's been a bit of a, soap opera. Would he get traded or not? And Dostal has been doing the work for the last few years, and he's looked good. Not only does he look good with the gear, I love those orange jerseys, the pants, the whole look. It's fantastic. But he's making saves. He's giving them a chance to win. So this is the guy, I think, that everybody should be paying a little closer attention. Like Jake Ottinger, we all know him, and he's at the top of the league in a lot of categories. That's great. Connor Hellebuck, Igor Shesterkin. Those are all the studs, right? But Dostal, I think, is one of them that we have to pay attention, because if it continues for the whole season, all of a sudden Anaheim is saying, we have our goalie for the next few years here, which is always a good start.
Yep. Okay, Jimmy, before we let Marty go, I want to say a goalie that I like.
Yeah.
Philip Gustafson in Minnesota, second in the league in goals against and second in the league in save percentage. And nobody's talking about Minnesota's start. Johnny Minnesota's had a hell of a start, Marty.
Let me tell you this. As a goalie, when you're never trailing in any games, and they're like 6 games in and they haven't trailed in any yet. They lost in overtime and in a shootout. Those are the 2 losses that they have, but they have been scoring first and in the lead. And that makes so much easier for the goalie to think that, I'm relaxed now. And my team is into the game. It's a bit, but he's also part of that, making big saves early to buy time for his team to get in the lead. And
the other guy in Minnesota to watch for, Matt Boldy, I'm telling you, is going to be a superstar in this league for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
I like
him. The reason they gave him that extension.
Brock Faber, they got Marco Rossi, they got Kaprizov and Zuccarello that are flying. Like Minnesota, I didn't have him in the playoffs when I did my preseason ranking, and now I'm like, this is a team that's going, and it's fun to see.
Yeah. And guys, let's not forget our good friend Randy Workman saying he's a Flames fan, so he's going to tell us. What about Wolf? I mean, what a start for him.
What a start for Wolf. The last couple of years when I watch him in the NHL, I'm thinking, the size may be a problem, because, guys were
said that too, Pierre.
Yeah, guys were picking him apart. They were picking him apart, but you also have to believe that he did it in the AHL, and once he catches up, like, he's so athletic that he could be a UC. It took Saros a long time to be a number 1 goaltender, because he had the smaller size. But then when he got there, he
was in front of him. Pekka played all the time.
Yeah, but again, like, I think Wolf now doesn't look like he's getting beat clean. He plays with confidence. And the Flames are fun. Like, I mean, Huberdeau, and
they're one of the best stories in the NHL right now.
They're fun. They're definitely a team that late at night, when all the East Coast games are done, you turn on just to see what's happening in Calgary.
Before we let this guy go, because I just love talking to Marty so much. The big question I have, Marty, about him is, and you lived it, you were a bigger person. You weren't heavy, but you were a bigger person. He's not big. I've watched him, and I see him when he doesn't have his clothes. He's not a big guy.
No.
When does it start to get tiring for him, Marty? What game?
Oh, well, I mean, everybody's different. I remember one year I played 72 games in Buffalo and I was 160 pounds at 6'2", right? And I like at one point, like Lindy Ruff thought I was going to disappear, like all was going to melt off of me. But I don't think that year I felt it because I was just in a groove. And I don't think I felt it the year after. But I think it's like if you play at the NHL level for 3, 4, 5 years, if you play 60, 65 plus games, you better take really good care of yourself. Another goalie in Minnesota who's in his last year, Marc-Andre Fleury. This is not the biggest of guy, but Marc-Andre Fleury is in better shape, nutrition, yoga, stretching, cold tubs, whatever, right? Massages. He took care of himself and his body, and that's why he's played that long. I think the young goalies have to learn that, like a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury.
For sure. Great stuff. Thank you, Marty. Listen, we love having you on, my friend. I hope to see you around the rinks. Thanks so much. All right.
I love talking to you guys. Enjoyed the games. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Marty Biron joined us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. He is truly one of the good guys in the game, Pierre.
Don't you feel
just
great?
So happy. Every time I come away from talking to the guy, I'm in the best mood. You know?
He's one of the guys I cheer for.
Yeah.
You leave the interview or you leave visiting with him. I used to work with him at TSN a lot when he was just starting, and he was always happy.
Yep.
And that's great. So refreshing.
Yeah, you know? And he's become such a staple up there too in the Buffalo community.
Well,
it's great.
I'll tell you what, so there are a few guys a lot of guys have stayed there, but he's really
Ray.
Michael Pekka. I mean, there are a bunch of them that have stayed there, and it makes a big difference. And that's why when I didn't know that about Alex Tuck. I know the Tuck family really well.
Yep.
I didn't know that Alex had built a home there and was living there. And I didn't know that about Darlene. That was really significant intel.
Yeah.
That Marty just told us.
Not Alf.
No, Rasmus. That's okay. But I didn't want him to get confused.
Oh, man. That happened. I don't know if that's a part of getting older. Like I say names from the past, Pierre. I don't know what's going on.
No, it's nothing. You know what? Let me tell you this, though, Jimmy. It's really important. I mean, when Jake DeBrusk came into the league, I'm going to say probably 6 or 7 times I was saying, hey, look at Louis DeBrusk.
All right. Cool. I don't feel bad then.
The first time I ever saw Louis play, he was playing for the London Knights, and I forget, but he got in a Pier 6 brawl, and he pulverized somebody, and he was, a junior player.
Yeah.
This guy's
good stuff. Good stuff. Well, listen, I don't know if our good friends at Betway have an over-under on Jimmy Murphy brain cramps, but let me tell you about Betway right now, because we know them guys. As I tell you every day, they are the leading global online betting and gaming brand. You want to go over there right now, follow your gut instinct, go with Betway. You can sign up right there with that SKU in front of you if you want, with the QR code right now. But if you're listening, you just go over there right now, sign up there. And remember, always bet responsibly, and you must be 18 plus. And man, there's a good slate of games tonight, Pierre, but I'm going to stick with this game for my, sick pick of the day right now. This game that's about to start in a couple hours right in front of me. The Boston Bruins and Dallas Stars. You get Jake Ottinger versus Jeremy Swayman. I'm sensing a tight, hard-hitting defensive game. And then, if the puck gets by those 5 guys in front of the goalie, both goalies are very capable of keeping it out. I like the under 5.5 in this game. I think we're going to see a low-scoring game. So that is my sick pick of the day. Let's get the graphic.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
Hey, that's a BU Maine Hockey East showdown.
That's right. That's right. Good call by you.
And Swayman from Maine.
That's right. Good call by you. And both goalies kind of getting similar contracts as well, Pierre. So both setting the goalie market, doing their job for the goalie fraternity. I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be a good game because I think the Bruins, they know they got to bounce back from the other night, and they got to answer the bell here in front of the home crowd. And they got Toronto coming in Saturday too, so it's not going to get any easier.
You know what, though, Jimmy? Dallas knows they got to bounce back too. They were stinky in Buffalo. Like Marty talked about it. They pulled the goalie, with like 6 minutes to go in the third period. They were down. They ended up making it 4-2, but they weren't real good in that game, Dallas. I think Pete DeBoer probably cracked the whip on them the last couple of days to get them ready to play tonight.
And Shane Oliver, our good friend in the comments section, pointing out Tyler Seguin is back as well, obviously former Bruin. I've mentioned it here before. He loves coming back here. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I know he's done very well over the years when he comes back to Boston.
It's interesting you bring up Tyler Seguin because the 2010 draft was Taylor,
Tyler.
versus Tyler Seguin. But I'm watching the game last night, Washington versus Philadelphia. The 10th overall pick in the 2010 draft, and we never rehearsed the show.
Yep.
Was Dylan McElrath. The New York Rangers took him 10th overall. Dylan McElrath is 32 years of age now. Okay?
Tough guy.
Dylan McElrath has played 80. Last night was his 80th NHL game playing for the Washington Capitals. Got an assist on the first goal, deflection down low. He fought the night before like a titanic battle with
that was awesome.
Like old school hard butt fight. It was tough. I'm watching this guy play. I don't think he's ever had more fun playing. And this is a guy that earned his way onto the team. He's been in Hershey the last 2 years. They won the Calder Cup the last 2 years he was there. He won another Calder Cup back in Detroit when he was with Grand Rapids. It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story. So when you bring up Tyler Seguin, the first thing I think of is a 2010 draft. I'm thinking, okay, Taylor, where's that? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to talk about this guy. He was so good. It's Dylan McElrath, such a good story right now.
You know what, Pierre? I've heard good things about the players that have played with him. Have told me he's a great guy in the locker room. He's really good. And you look at that video I sent you. I don't know if you had a chance to watch Carberry after the win last night. And
no, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so you know he's in the locker room giving his pep talk. Great job, guys. And then they do their little theme award or whatever. And you could just see these guys. They're having a great time right now. They are a tight knit dressing room, and they focused in on McGuire, and he was leading the pack, you know, with the cheers and everything. So, you know, there's a good thing going there in Washington right now, Pierre. There really is.
I'm really happy for them, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, how about Pierre-Luc Dubois? He's getting points.
He got a goal last night. Yep.
Points last night, a goal and 2 assists. But I don't know if he still has it. I have to believe, unless he had it taken off with, laser. Dylan McElrath, he had it in Old English script tattooed on his shoulder, from one shoulder to the other shoulder.
Okay.
McElrath. In Old English script. He was a tough guy. I mean, I saw him play in Moose Jaw back in the day.
Yeah.
He was in the old crush can, not the new one.
Pierre, are you going to get one of those in Celtic lettering over in Belfast when we go there?
No. But, whenever
I am looking forward to that.
We're looking forward to it big time. But whenever I think of Dylan, I think about, unique things different players have. That's one thing he has right across from his shoulder to his shoulder. McElrath, an Old English script.
Yep. Good stuff. So, we want to remind everyone again, as we do every day, we're very excited. We will be over at the Friendship 4 for the whole week there, broadcasting live that Monday in the last week of November, that Monday. We will be live in Dublin, Pierre. We don't have a location yet.
Oh, we're close. We're down to 2.
When we know, we'll let you know. And then the next
should know by Monday.
Okay. And then do we have a time confirmed?
We are going to be confirmed for 2 p.m. Ireland time.
Okay, at 9 a.m. here, right?
9 a.m. East Coast or Eastern time.
And we will be live still here on the.
We will be live. We're going live.
So remember that. I'll remind everybody. It's going to be breakfast with McGuire and Murphy, live from Belfast for you guys. Will be lunch for us, but.
Well, no. First, it'll be from Dublin.
Okay, from Dublin. Yes, of course. Yes, Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we will be at the Heart Bar in Belfast. And Pierre, I don't even know if you know this about me, but one of my favorite types of music was punk rock music. And there's a amazing punk rock band, one of the earliest ones called Stiff Little Fingers, and they're from Belfast. And you know where they got their start, Pierre? And I put it together in my head when I couldn't sleep last night. The Heart Bar.
Because I hope you're telling everybody the Heart Bar is one of the legendary punk rock bars.
I did not realize that.
Not just Ireland, all of Europe.
Yeah, I just stumbled on. I couldn't sleep last night, so I get online. I'm just like, I start learning about these places we're going to be at. So I type in like music bars in Belfast just to see maybe I could find one to go. And the first one that comes up is a Heart Bar, and then it says it's the home of punk rock in Belfast. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is going to be great.
It's a legendary place. Jimmy, I have bad news for you though. You're going to be living like a hockey scout.
I know.
So
I know. Be a good boy.
Live in the rink.
Yep.
You're going to eat well. You're going to exercise.
Yes.
And then when everything's said and done, you're going to go to the Heart Bar after work.
Yep. There we go. Well, we'll be at the Heart Bar for work. So I'm looking forward to seeing all the memorabilia around the walls. That I can tell you, my friend. And do you know who else played there a lot back in the day? Van Morrison.
Really?
This place is
I did
legendary,
not
man.
know. I
Yeah,
did not
this
know
is,
Ben
this
Morrison.
is great. So really excited. You know who would love doing this with us then? Mitch Melnick.
Mitch Melnick.
Yeah, this
We
was
should try
right
to
up his alley.
Guest appearance. We should try to get him to come.
that would
He's
be
not
fun,
afraid to fly anymore, Mel.
You know what? I think he's got a concert he's part of. He does so many of those wonderful music festivals in Montreal, and Shane Murphy's part of it. So I'm pretty sure he won't be able to make it away. But next time we'll get him there. Let's get to that Q&A right now. I see a lot of great questions lining up. What do we got to start things off? Alex Evanowski, I can't get over how great a job Brian McClellan is doing in Washington. It feels like a masterclass on keep your team competitive, but filling it with a new generation of young talent. Thoughts? That's a great one. I'm just going to say I totally agree with Alex there. And I mean, great observation by him. And look, Pierre, I remember at this time, and I'm going to draw a little parallel because I think it's going on for a lot of people now with Calgary. But at this time last year, we were talking about, things are interesting. Nice little start, but, nobody really wanted to give him any credit yet. Are they for real? Are they for real? Are they for real? And I didn't believe it, but they were. And they stuck with it, and they didn't sell the farm at the deadline. They didn't go out and go nuts, and get rid of some core pieces or anything. They kept going. They stayed the course, and now look where they are. And I kind of see a parallel with Calgary this year to Washington at this time last year.
Here's what's gone on in Washington for a long time. Brian McClellan, even before Brian, George McPhee, they really prioritized development at Hershey. Hershey's been an amazing development partner for the Washington Capitals. He's been an amazing development partner.
Best AHL team ever.
And so, you just look at all the guys that went, like John Carlson went through Hershey. He did.
Mm-hmm.
Ferravari went through Hershey. McElrath went through Hershey. You start looking at all the guys that Hendricks Lapierre went through Hershey. They've won the last 2 Calder Cups.
Yep.
I don't think that helps your development as an organization.
Oh, yeah,
for sure. When all these other guys are taking time off, your guys are playing real hard physical games.
Games that matter.
So I give them as an organization a lot of credit. They've sunk a lot of assets dollar-wise into Hershey. Hershey's a phenomenal franchise. It is an elite franchise. And one thing Washington might do better than anybody, or as well as anybody, identification of college free agents. They're really, really, really good at it. They're really
good point. Good point. All right, next question. Randy Workman. What's up, Randy? Jimmy and Pierre, all sorts of rumors of the Flames pushing for Doc. Have you heard any of that? I have not, Randy. Sorry. I've heard that they are looking for a center.
I have not.
I heard Craig. I did hear Craig Conroy on his Sportsnet pregame. I believe it was Tuesday. Yeah, it was when we had all those games. And Pierre, he openly said, we're looking for a center, but he goes, but I'll tell you right now, I'm not giving up a 1st or 2nd round pick just for some guy that we have as a rental this year, or even one more year. He's like, if we're getting somebody, it's a guy who's going to be here long-term because we are not veering off course here. So that's all I know about that.
No, and he shouldn't. He should not.
No.
He should not.
Yep.
This is fun to watch their team. You said it best. It's an amazing story. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah,
they're having fun. They're having fun as a group, which is great. I don't know if Kirby Doc's available. I couldn't tell you. I know he's off to a slow start, but I think a big part of that is because of the injury. We talked about it yesterday.
I would just say, Pierre, based on the conversations we've had publicly on here with Jeff Gorton and Ken Hughes last year, and then just conversations you and I have off the air, they love Doc, and I think they really want to give it time and let it work with him right now because, that was a big trade they made to get him, or trades actually, because, it was 2 trades that made it happen. And I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. I think they're going to give him a lot of time.
That's what I'm telling you.
That's just my take. I haven't heard anything.
We're on
just
the
my
same
take.
page. I don't see that happening either.
Okay. All right. Next question. Stephen Greidenus. I hope I pronounced your last name right. Question. Edmonton, Colorado, Devils, LA all have goaltending problems. Who do you see being in high demand?
I don't think the Devils do.
No, Devils are okay.
Do. They got Markstrom, so I don't see that. I think the other ones are legit, but I don't think the Devils do. So I don't know.
I think LA is a team I'd watch. I don't think in Colorado, those 2 teams, I don't think they're going to wait long.
No, I think Colorado will be probably the most aggressive.
Yep, for sure. All right, next question. GB, question. How does Mishkov look with the Flyers? Pretty damn good.
He's really solid. Look, it's a big adjustment, and they're not one of the better teams in the league right now. but you can see he's going to have massive impact on this team for a long time. He's really talented. He can make plays offensively. He's very effective on the power play. He knows how to create time and space when he has the puck.
That's where I was just going to go.
That's not easy for a young player to do, Jimmy. That's really hard. So
especially coming over here.
Yeah, no, without big rink, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to like about his game. They're always like, it was no secret, by the way. Everybody knew he was really talented. I went over to watch him. I mean, when I was in Ottawa, there was no secret that Mishkov wasn't a superstar in the making. He was, but people were worried about getting him out. You know, they just were very, very concerned about getting him out.
Yep, for sure. All right, next question. Gabriel Lamb. What's up, Gabriel? Question: with the Tampa deal, would this push the potential expansion fee even higher, like near $2 billion? And of course, Gabriel's talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning were just sold. However, Pierre, as I'm sure you saw today, the news came that Vinik is still going to control the team in terms of hands-on action for the next 3 seasons, which I like because I know you're a big fan of him, and I am too.
The best thing for the new owners, I know people don't like to be mentored. They're going to get the ultimate mentorship from Jeffrey Vinik. They're going to learn how to own a team the proper way. And I think this is the best thing that could happen to the town of Tampa, to the Tampa Bay Lightning, for all of their great fans, and for the National Hockey League. Jeffrey Vinik staying in the league longer makes the National Hockey League better. I can tell you that, Jimmy. With a clear conscience, I can tell you that.
I would agree. All right, next question. Sound the siren. Goss's fear is on absolute fire right now. Could he reach 30 goals?
It depends on how good the power play is for the rest of the year. But it's a very fair question. You know, and don't forget, he's not a huge player and injuries happen. So all it takes is for one guy to catch him and he could be in trouble. But yeah, he's having a tremendous start to the year. There's no question about it.
Agreed. All right, next question. Charles, if the Habs aren't in the mix this year, as management suggested, do you think Marty's job is in jeopardy with Pascal coaching the Rocket?
No.
Nope. No, I think they're going to have patience with that.
Here's what I'll say. I'm prepared to say this with confidence. If it doesn't go well this year, they'll get the start of next year in probably 25 games. And if it's not going well then I think everything's in play.
Yep. I'd agree. All right, next question. Alex Evanovsky. Did Tortorella's masterful coaching job last year lead us to believe the Flyers might be closer than they really are in turning it around? I look at their team and I ask, what else is coming? That's a good question, Alex. And I you know, and that's obviously a credit to Tortorella. I think he did kind of hide a lot of deficiencies that they have because they bought in. I think they're an interesting team. I can't figure them out. So I don't know what to tell you there.
Don't forget they started the season with Carter Hart too.
Yeah.
He's not there anymore. So not that Urson's not a good goaltender, but I think they're going to have some depth issues in goal this year. I think they're going to have some issues up front because they're very young. And Couturier is not the player he used to be. And that's because of injury. It's not because he's not a good player. It's just because of the injury situations. And John coached fantastically well. But here's one thing I will tell you. Last year they got a lot of points because people slept on them.
Yes.
Nobody is sleeping on them anymore. And you could see that the intensity of the Washington game in Philly, the first game, and then you could see it last night again.
Yep. Yeah.
So nobody's sleeping on these guys, whereas last year people slept on them.
And ironically, I'll go back to what we were talking about, the Caps, kind of linking in there, Pierre, and they played them, obviously. But the fact that Washington's still doing what they're doing, considering what you're just saying, that nobody's sleeping on the Flyers, the same goes for them, right? I think a lot of people slept on the Caps last year.
100%.
So they're not going to do it now. So that makes it even more impressive what Washington's
100%.
doing.
And that's where veteran leadership of Karlsson, this is really important. Tommy Wilson, you think about the guys that have been lost there. No Kuznetsov, no Backstrom, no TJ Oshie. Like there's a lot of holes there. They traded Nick Jensen to Ottawa. They got Chikrin back. So there's a lot of moving parts in Washington. But the one thing that I would never discount, leadership of Ovechkin, leadership of Tommy Wilson, and the biggest thing, the leadership of Johnny Karlsson. I think Washington's actually going to be a real good story this year.
Breaking news right now, and thanks to Sammy, our man in the production up in Montreal. Pierre, I don't know if you just saw this. Shea Theodore has signed a 7-year extension with the Vegas Golden Knights. It carries a 7.42 AAV. So good for them.
Okay, so here's what I'd like you to do for all of our people, because I want to get it exactly right. Shea Theodore is you know this. Shea Theodore's been to 2 Stanley Cup final. He won 1 and lost 1.
Yep.
Go look at where Shea Theodore started his career, Anaheim, and look at what Vegas did to pry him out of there. It's almost criminal.
I don't remember, actually. I'm glad you brought it up. I'm going to look it up right now. What do we got?
It's amazing. So Shea was a great player with Seattle.
Oh, it was via the expansion draft. That's right.
Yes. So they played. So I'm telling you, they deserve. It was a master class, and I know that term's being used a lot now because of the political race in the United States.
Yeah.
But what George McPhee did at that time with Kelly McCrimmon, and George was a GM, and Kelly was, I think, director of player personnel at the time, and assistant GM. They just basically blackmailed teams.
Oh my God.
What they did was unbelievable. And Shea Theodore is one of the examples of what they did.
Yeah. And for those who, and I'm glad you said that, Pierre, because people are like, well, why isn't Seattle as good as Vegas was right out of the gate? Well, that's why.
That's why.
Because these GMs were not going to get blackmailed. They're duped again.
Jimmy, you used to listen to me on Melnick's all the time. And the one thing I'd say is,
I still do.
I don't know. Thank you. I don't know why. I don't know why all these GMs at the time, and I had some real good friends running teams, and I said, don't get pushed up against the wall. You're only going to lose. Don't lose 3 assets to protect 1. You're only going to lose 1 asset. And all these teams were, well, I'll give you these 3 things so you don't take this 1 thing, or I'll give you 2 things and future considerations, a draft pick, if you don't take this guy. You know, I was like, no, just lose 1. Don't lose 3.
Right. Yeah.
It was unbelievable what they did.
Yeah, well, we won't see that again for
The
sure.
hijinks was amazing, and they deserve. They just outsmarted everybody.
Yeah,
they did.
And credit to their pro scouts that they hired initially off the bat that went out the previous season and did all that scouting.
Jimmy McKenzie was there, one of my buddies, and one of my former players, and Von Karpen. Those were the guys I remember at the start in Vegas. They were really slick, and they did a phenomenal job. They really
sure. All right, next question. GB, hello, Jimmy and Pierre. With nutrition being so important with athletes, do teams have their meals catered locally, or do they have a chef for the team? And if they have a chef, does he or she travel with the team? Pierre, you can take this. I mean, I know the answer, but go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this. Most teams have at least 1 chef at home, and their breakfasts are always prepared, and more times than not, their lunches are prepared. When they're on the road, they have catering. The catering's done usually by the hotel. When they get on their planes, their charters, the catering more times than not is done by a private company that feeds them on the plane. And it's not airplane food. It's real good food. It's totally different than what you're used to. I don't know of any chefs that travel with teams. I know the one budgetary thing, and most budgets in the NHL are line item. One line item is teams travel their doctors or medical staffs in the playoffs, and a couple of them, maybe more now, but a few of them travel their doctors during the course of the year. It's about, to travel them, it's about a $250,000 to $300,000 expenditure. That's just the doctors. But in terms of chefs, I don't know about chefs traveling, but all the other stuff, catering at home for breakfast and lunch more times than not. No dinners, no pregame dinners, very seldom. And then there's a snack, there's soup available and all that. And on the road, they don't worry. They're taken care of. Their meals are fantastic.
Yeah, and Pierre, that just reminded me too, because I got to know him a little. Keith Garman was a former chef for Boston Bruins, passed away back in 2023. But I just remember talking to those guys when he passed away, and just to kind of elaborate on that, how important the chefs are to the team. I mean, he was part of the team. They spoke volumes about him. He was part of the team, just like a trainer or equipment manager would be. Chefs are now really part of the fabric of a team.
Yeah, you know where all this started, and I'm not afraid to say it. Kevin Lowe, who was a general manager for a long time in Edmonton, obviously a Hockey Hall of Fame player from his Stanley Cups in Edmonton and one with the Rangers. Kevin said the only way we're going to get free agents into Edmonton, we're going to redo our dressing room, and we're going to put a high-end kitchen in there, and we're going to have a chef and a cooking staff, and we're going to prepare meals because it's not against the cap. That didn't count on the cap.
Beautiful.
So it was actually Kevin that started all this stuff, and he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
He had the vision to do it, and I haven't seen Kevin in a while. I used to see him a lot and have really good visits with him. But he was a guy, and along with Steve Tambellini, that had the vision to do that stuff in Edmonton. So I give him a lot of credit for
that. Not to drag on about this, Pierre, but were they one of the first teams to have those high-end practice facilities and everything? Because remember, there was a period, I want to say it was when we were getting out of lockout, the original one, 04-05. I felt like during that, for like 5 to 10 years, a lot of teams were like, oh my God, I got to get the practice facility because this team did it, and then that team does it, and that team does it. And the Bruins finally did it in 15.
I think a lot of that started, believe it or not, Columbus had their rink attached, and then New Jersey had their new rink, and they had a practice rink attached. And then I think, obviously, the Rangers did something with the Knicks in Terrytown.
They used to be up in Rye, right?
Yeah. So now they went from Rye to Terrytown, New York, and their facility is stupendous. So it did start to kick in. And Boston, they have theirs over at Warrior Arena, right just south of where Boston College is, and just to the east of or west of where BU is. So yeah, I mean, it started, but they were up there. But I'll tell you what, the catering stuff, Edmonton deserves a lot of credit for that. And that was Kevin Lowe and Steve Tambellini.
All right. Next question. Stephen Grindnice again. With the quality of Canadian-born goalies in the NHL recently, is this a problem with development or a problem with society and how we treat goalies when they are young, causing lack of interest? It's a great question.
It's fair, but it has nothing to do with society. It has to do with the cost of playing the position. It has to do with it's cyclical. It has to do with some kids that maybe were goalies, maybe now, goalies are big now, Jimmy. Maybe some of them are playing basketball. Maybe some of them are becoming pitchers in baseball. Maybe some of them are becoming wide receivers in football. Maybe some of them are becoming goalies in soccer. So there's a lot of different opportunities out there, maybe more so in Canada than they've ever had. And so I think that's part of it too. But one of my concerns, Jimmy, and I've told you this both on and off the air, my concern is the cost of playing the game.
Yep.
And the goaltending position's not cheap.
No.
Pads, skates, gloves, sticks, helmet,
mask. Yeah.
Costs a lot of money.
Yep.
Costs a lot of money.
All right. Next question. If you're the Flyers GM, how long before they do a shakeup? I don't think a shakeup's coming there, Randy. That was Randy Workman, by the way. Randy, like we said, I think they know they're still retooling, rebuilding, whatever you want to call it. I think there'll be patience there. There'll be trades, but I don't think it's going to be like a big monster shakeup.
I don't see a shakeup.
All right, next question. Alex Ivanovsky. We talked about Bedard a little bit yesterday. I noticed it didn't seem like Pierre was crazy with where they are in their rebuild. What would either of you change about where the Hawks are at? Well, I'd improve that defense. That's one thing.
I would never have rushed Kevin Korchinski last year. No chance.
Yep, there you go.
No chance. I was still dumbfounded by that.
Yep.
I think they need to upgrade in goal.
Upgrade in goal for sure.
And that's, again, Peter Mrazek plays his butt off, and he's as fired as any guy, but it just, is he a starting goalie in the league? Probably not.
Especially not behind an inexperienced
team.
Oh,
so there's that, and I like a lot of the veteran guys they have, but most of those veterans are past where they used to be. That makes it hard, too. It's a tough situation, but just watch some of his body language now. You can see last year was new and exciting, and Chicago's an amazing market. It's an amazing market. It's phenomenal. The fans are great. It's a phenomenal place. But if you're not winning, it's not a lot of fun. And that kid's used to winning. He's used to winning in a lot of places.
Yep, we'll hear you. All right, next question. GB, when did the CPA start limiting the amount of must be a CBA start limiting the amount of practice a team can have?
Yeah, just their last agreement.
Yeah, it was the last agreement where they get the mandated days off.
The mandated days off, and
that came in the 2021.
I'm going to say this right now. I thought that was a smart ass by the association.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you, and nobody likes being in the rink. Well, I'd like to say lots of people like being in the rink, but I love being in the rink.
Yeah.
And even I know that players need time away from the rink. The hardest thing, and this is, people are going to laugh and say, "You're nuts, McGuire." I'm not. I'm just telling you. The hardest thing for players to do as they go deeper into the season and then in the playoffs is come to the rink every day and put their skates on.
Yep.
It's a chore. And as you go deeper into the playoffs, you got to be really smart as a coaching staff how you gauge when you're going to practice, who you're actually going to have go on the ice. And almost near the end, if you're fortunate to get to the Eastern Final or the Western Final, maybe make it to the Cup, almost every practice is optional. It's OPT, as they call it.
Yep, I hear you. All right, I think that's it, Pierre, for all our questions. We appreciate everyone out there with all the awesome questions you ask every episode, and we appreciate you watching and listening. And big thanks to Marty Biron for joining us here on the Eye Test. Always puts me in a good mood talking to him. So
that's good.
He's always fun to talk to. And thanks to our production crew up in Montreal. For Pierre McGuire, I am Jimmy Murphy. This has been another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.